Here is a video about how to maximize your score in paper 2. Paper 2 is 1 hour and 15 minutes long, and this video will show you how to go about getting the best possible score that you can. Okay, now move on to the next page here. The first question, you're asked to extract information from a source. Okay, so you're given a source and it says, what does source A tell us about whatever the topic is? Okay, and you've got 5 minutes for that one. And there's two ways to get the full marks. You can either extract 4 relevant points from the source, or you can extract 2 points and develop them. Okay, so either find 4 things in the source and list them down here. Source A says this, it also says this, it says this. Or you can take 2 points from it and add a bit of development. Okay, sort of explain the point maybe. Okay, so that's question 1. So you should all get 4 marks for question 1. In question 2, it's where you have to compare 2 sources, okay? Where you're given 2 primary sources, or 2 sources from the time talking about an event, and then you're given the question, explain 2 ways in which these sources differ. You've got 5 minutes for that. And you've got to do it 2 ways. Remember, lots of people made the mistake of only comparing it once. Compare it twice. Okay, so you need to go source B says whatever it says, but source C says, and the opposing point of view in source C. For way 2 then, you go source C mentions this, however source B says the opposite, it says whatever. Now remember, if you can't find 2 ways in which they differ, you can say something like source C mentions this, however source B doesn't mention it, and that's enough to get you the 2 marks there. Okay, so 4 marks in total, 5 minutes. Then the last part of that says explain 1 reason why the sources or the views in source B and source C are different, and you've got 3 minutes for that. Now the advice is focus on the authors for this. You know, the authors of the source. Who are they? What side of the Cold War are they on? It's not enough just to say these sources are different because they're from different people, or these sources are different because one is from an American and one is from a Russian. That's not enough. You need to say these sources are different because one is from an American who obviously supports the American president during the Cuban Missile Crisis, or whatever the topic is, whereas source C is from a Russian journalist who obviously supports the Russians, Khrushchev's actions during the Cold War. Okay, so you need to expand it a wee bit and give it a bit of effort to get the full 2 marks. Okay, right, moving on. Question 4. Question 4 is the one which asks you how convincing is a source. So it's always an historian's view about an event, and the historian will always have a particular viewpoint. Okay, and you've got 10 minutes for this. Now, the trap that some people fall into says this source is not convincing because it's from an American and he takes an American point of view and da. You're not supposed to do that. You focus on the content. Focus on what the source is saying. Content is king, it says up here. Do not assess the reliability or usefulness in the convincing question. And you must bring in your own contextual knowledge. And you must arrive at a conclusion where you say, right, I am totally convinced by this view, I am only partially convinced by it, or I'm not convinced at all, and explain it. And that's quite a lot to do in 10 minutes, and I sometimes think the space isn't enough to get that answered on. I struggled there when I put in the sample answer. So remember, you can ask for extra paper. Okay, this one might take a wee bit longer than the space that they've given for it. Right, now the final source question is the one which is a bit tricky. It says study sources B, C and D again and answer the questions below. How far do you agree with the view in source D that both USA and the USSR were to blame for tensions over Berlin 1945 to 61? In your answer, you must use source B, C and D and use information of your own. So you must examine each source separately. That's what I've said here. Examine each source separately. Start with the source referred to in the question. Okay, so you can see up here, source D is referred to. So you must start with that source. Okay, so you start off by saying source D is the view of. Okay, so in this case, it's the view of an American historian, I think. Uh, he is an historian, so he should be writing objectively about the past, he says, and then you outline what his viewpoint is. Okay, you're not being asked to analyze it or find out how convincing it is or to say if it's biased. You just need to outline what the view is. Then, once you've finished with the source mentioned in the question, you go on to look at the other two sources. Source C is from whoever it's from again, and then it agrees or it disagrees with source D. Does it agree or disagree with source D, the source mentioned in the question? And then say what it says. And then finally, source B is from, and again, it agrees or disagrees with D, the source mentioned in the question. It says that. And so you go through that process of looking at each source and identifying who it's from, what they're saying, and what their viewpoint is, okay, and whether it agrees or not with the view in source D. Then, remember, write a conclusion. Having looked at all the sources, you need to arrive at a conclusion because your question is asking, how far do you agree with the view? Okay, so it's asking you how far you agree with the view. So you should end with something like this. Therefore, having examined all the sources, I fully agree, somewhat disagree, totally disagree with the view expressed in source D because, and there you give your own opinion then about why, what you think about the topic that's being discussed. Okay, guys, I hope that is useful. The next question then is the where you have to describe two reasons. I think that should be straightforward enough. This question requires you to describe either a cause, consequence, or impact, for example, of an event. This one asks you to give two reasons for the invasion of Iraq in 2003. You only have to write 2 sentences for that, so that's quite easy. Spend 5 minutes on that. And then finally, your essay question. And remember, this is the question up here. This isn't the question. This is the question. These are just the guidelines about how to answer it. So always focus on the question, okay? Right, I hope that is useful. And there's a PDF copy of what I showed you here in Google Classroom, as well as this video, okay? So any questions about that, you can pop them underneath and I will try and help. Good luck.